Growing $1 million business is not an easy task. Just a few years ago, I was a 19-year-old sitting in my room, hunched over my laptop, gazing into the glowing screen. I was watching these strangers online tell me that it was possible to take control of my financial destiny, grow a business online, and completely redesign my life. I was skeptical, and at first, I honestly just believed these people popping up on my YouTube feed were just scamming and trying to sell me a dream with a course. The reason that I'm telling you this is because I thought that making even just $10,000 to $20,000 a month was reserved for those who knew something that I didn't, for those that were raised by a silver spoon, or the scammers. And now I realize how minuscule my thinking actually was. Now, actually having grown my own multi-million-dollar business and doubling or tripling my income every year, I understand that it doesn't come down to a single eureka moment or a stroke of sheer luck, but rather setting into place a few key habits. Ladies and gentlemen, these habits aren't about working 24/7 or having top secret insights and special connections. They're about unveiling opportunities and positioning yourself to receive what you're after. Today, I want to give you the 3 habits that I use, not as a story of just business growth, but as a lesson to what I believe anyone watching can achieve in their lives with the correct approach. Now, back during my first couple years in high school, I was absolutely addicted to video games. I loved the strategy, I loved leveling up and using my character to beat everyone else. I would sit in front of my glowing computer screen, hunched over for hours, playing these games until I didn't even realize how much time had passed. I was fully addicted. And that's because video games provide cheap and easy dopamine. Dopamine is like an anticipation hormone for pleasure and motivation. You start feeling motivated to complete a task, regardless of what it is, in anticipation that you'll receive the reward. You get huge amounts of dopamine release right before the anticipated reward hits. So playing video games gives you tons of dopamine over and over again. Super fast hits back to back. Now, at the time, I might not have been conscious of it, but I was learning that I could take that same mental reward system and rewire it to doing other tasks. I started working more, I got promotions, started working out, and even started my own online business. The thing that I learned is that you can get the same level of enjoyment from working on a business as you can from watching Netflix, binging a series, or playing video games. Successful entrepreneurs and businessmen play the game of business more than they play video games or binge Netflix. And it's a lot more rewarding too. The mental rewiring doesn't happen overnight, but the more deliberate you are about it, the faster it can work. Dopamine is a reward center in our brain linked with anticipated outcome. So that means that there are 2 steps to rewiring our brains for success. The first is to reduce the amount of easy dopamine that we're getting from video games, Netflix, sugar, porn, TikTok, and alcohol, and this will literally leave your brain starving. Next, we must channel that desire for reward into meaningful work, like growing a business. If you're able to, you'll start feeling the same chemical release in your brain from doing things that you would have previously considered boring and hard. If you eat junk food all day long, you'll never be hungry for high-quality, nutrient-dense foods, and you'll get physically fat. If you consume junk entertainment all day long, in the same way, you'll get mentally fat. A fast, as far as physical health goes, typically helps you lose weight and puts you back on track to eating a healthy diet. A dopamine or mental fast is arguably more important these days. Your habits from eating to exercising and working on your business are affected by your dopamine reward center. As long as TikTok and Netflix control your brain like this, it's going to be difficult to get whatever you currently consider hard work done. I had to make the habit of mental fasting a practice to escape the social media trap. Occasionally, I'll still find myself in a social media death scroll where I'll look up 30 minutes later wondering what happened. But it's never as bad as it used to be. I'll still watch YouTube videos here and there. I'll still watch Netflix. The fasting is usually just expending a little bit of willpower to resist the urge of going on my phone for a little bit longer than I did the day before. I'm not saying that you have to quit social media cold turkey, but each month you should see your screen time going down. I've detached enough to the point where I can sit down and work for 9 hours without having to scroll on my phone or listen to music or snack on something just to get my work done. I used to see other people working for extremely long durations, doing seemingly boring tasks, and I would wonder how they did it. I would think that they must be miserable and they must hate their work. But now I realize it's because they can genuinely enjoy the process, because they've rewired their brains to enjoy it. It might not look like a balanced life from the outside, but in reality, It's far more balanced than wasting away on meaningless entertainment. Plus, who wants to live a balanced life anyway? I'd much rather be extreme about getting work done so I can do more extremely fun stuff instead of extreme amounts of entertainment and bot activity. Now, in order to make the dopamine rewiring possible, I first had to delete distractions. The habit of deleting potential distractions means deleting it from the digital and physical environment. For example, my workspace. I keep it as distraction-free as possible so that I can only focus on work. Now, I used to work with 3 different monitors up, and I found that I would get distracted between the multiple projects that I had up on each one. Having my one single monitor allows me to focus 100% of my effort into one task at a time. I used to keep my phone right next to me, but for some reason one day, my iPhone started giving me screen time reports, and when I saw those metrics, there was one day where I had over 5 hours of phone screen time. And when I saw how much of my life I was just wasting away to an Instagram feed that I didn't even remember, or opening the email app 30 different times, I just realized that something had to change. As I mentioned earlier, you only have a finite amount of willpower each day, and I was trying to spend all of it to just keep off of my phone. So to combat my screen addiction, I started taking my phone and tossing it across the room. I'll throw it over onto the couch, or I'll leave it in my bedroom or in the kitchen. That way, it's more work for me to get up and go check it than even if it's right next to me on airplane mode. Even though I do e-commerce and have to deal with a ton of emails and messages, I don't have to have my phone on me. I can leave it in another room and go check on it every 4 hours or so. I think that we all know how quickly a 1-minute phone check can turn into 30 minutes. And if we do that 6 times a day, that's 3 hours just right down the drain. I started spending the screen time that my phone would consume on my business, and that's right when things really started to take off. The habit of deleting distractions isn't just about your phone and social media, it's whatever distracts you. If there's food that you shouldn't be eating, throw it away. When my chair was too uncomfortable to sit in, I got a new one. Whatever it is, eliminating the distractions allows you to actually work on the things that matter to you and stay focused. Now, the third and perhaps most transformative habit is habit compounding. A few years ago, when I decided not to go to university, I instead decided to get my real estate license. Now, unfortunately, this was right around when the pandemic started, and so that meant that I wasn't allowed to hold open houses or go door-to-door knocking. So instead, to get clients, I would call on expired listings. Basically, if a house was on the market and the original agent couldn't get it to sell, that seller is still a hot lead. And me being a new agent would call to see if I could get their business and actually sell their house. It's a very common real estate agent strategy. Now, one morning, I was in my office and it was snowing outside. And I remember calling on this expired condo listing in downtown Denver that had been listed at $1.7 million. And I didn't end up talking to the owner, but instead the new listing agent for that property. He had called the night before and gotten the business before I got to the seller. And what he told me on that phone call will probably stay with me forever. He told me that my sales script sucked, that I wasn't ready, and that he did a better job on vacation than I did in my office at work. And this was true, but he also spent about 10 minutes giving me some really valuable advice. This wasn't just a regular agent, he was one of the top salesmen in Denver. He told me that one of the reasons for his success was that he never took more than 2 days off in a row. Even on vacation, he would still make time to prospect for new clients. He would practice every single day to maintain his skill and his edge over all the other agents. This man was on vacation and still spending an hour a day to get everyone else's clients. Now, all of that to say, over time, I've learned that what he was really talking about is habit compounding. In a book written by Darren Hardy, he illustrates the compound effect using 3 different friends. Friend A makes no changes to his current habits. He stays exactly the same. Friend B decides to cut out an extra 125 calories from his diet, equivalent to a soda or beer each day, and begins walking a little extra, which burns an extra 125 calories. Now, friend C does the exact opposite. He starts consuming an extra 125 calories a day by adding in that soda or beer, and decreases his walking by 125 calories burned. Now, for months, there's no visible changes between the 3 friends. But as the months go by, the effects start to compound, and by the end of the 31st month, friend A remains unsurprisingly exactly the same. Friend B has lost 33.5 pounds, and friend C has gained 33.5 pounds and is noticeably out of shape. The difference between friend B and friend C is 67 pounds, all because of a small difference of 250 calories. Whatever you're trying to learn or do, doing it every single day is something that successful people do. And after adopting that practice into my own life, I found it extremely useful. The compounding doesn't feel apparent on the 28th day, but by day 30, you might see significant improvement. The best part about this is you simply have to show up to take advantage of it. The beauty of compounding is that the only additional effort that you have to put forward is the effort it takes to begin that task each day. The results of that task don't matter. Now, to ensure I obey myself, I schedule the tasks that I want to complete. Doctors make the worst patients, which means it's much easier to give others advice, even on a situation similar to your own, than it is to take your own advice. By scheduling yourself out, you're essentially giving your future self advice on what to do with the time that you have, which is usually more effective than trying to do what you feel is best in the moment. I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm making the right decisions, because I've already decided what would be best. This allows me to schedule out the habits that I want to compound and the business moves that I want to make that will also compound over time. I know that even if all I can do is just show up, that's enough to carry the results over the long term. And that doesn't mean that I have to work every single day. Practicing mental fasting, deleting distractions, and allowing my habits to compound daily is exactly how I've been able to reshape my life and my business. Wherever you are in your journey, just remember that small daily actions compound over time. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know what questions or comments you have down below. And as always,